as I've grown up, and especially considering my time inside of a cult that was pretty intense and sophisticated, and I think this might be the first time that I've really even talked about the fact that I grew up in a cult on my channel. Like, you guys have heard me mention it before, and you guys have probably heard me talk about it on some other channel, but one of the reasons that I don't talk about it is because so often when I talk to people about the fact that I grew up in a cult, the first answer that I get most of the time, and I talk about this very little to other people outside, but the response that I do get almost every single time that I say it, I grew up in a cult, is, oh, me too. I also grew up in a cult. And I'm not downplaying anybody's experience in a cult or whatever kind of upbringing they went through. What kind of weird little church or group or whatever that you might be in. There's a lot of different types of people who grow up in a lot of different types of environments. And that's just fine. And so if you grew up in a cult, maybe you did. If you grew up in a church, maybe you did. I grew up in an actual doomsday death cult. And as I came out of that cult, I began to understand the world a little bit better. I began to understand people on a different level. My father and his fucked up friends who ran this cult, they did end up, splitting up and dissolving and all that kind of stuff because, shocker, the cult was a doomsday death cult and those don't always work out. And not everybody who was involved in that is probably still alive. Some of them fractured and went and formed their own cults, etc., etc., etc. The point that I'm trying to make is I got out by basically joining the military. That's how I got out from under what I consider to be a cult. Because even after the doomsday death cult aspect of it faded away, there was still weird shit going on in my family and in my house. And so I enlisted. I joined the military and I became an interrogator. And that, getting out from under that oppressive, religious, weird kind of role, and I'm not saying I didn't learn anything good from my dad. I did. I learned a lot of great things. The reason that I probably even believe in God the way that I do is because my dad was a spiritual leader for me in many positive ways. But not all of them. Not many of them, too. Like, many of the ways that he taught me I would consider to be horrible ways of teaching, and some I might consider, I'm not going to use the word abusive, but intrusive upon my soul in a wrong type of way. And I've learned as I've grown up that other people in my family felt this same way as well. There was a disconnect between my father, and his children, but for some reason, no disconnect between my father and God. Do you kind of see what's going on here? But anyway, I'm rambling here. I got to get to the point. But the point is, I began to understand people on a different level. After I left, and after I went through interrogation school, after I became an interrogator for the U.S. Army, and then everything that followed encouraged me to continue to learn. I went to college, I got a bachelor's, all that kind of stuff, right? So as I began to blossom and grow in the world, I began to understand government on a different level. And this is something I didn't understand at all within the cult because I was very sheltered. I wasn't allowed to see the outside world. I wasn't allowed to listen to music. I wasn't allowed to wear clothes with colors on them, or numbers, or names, or letters. I wasn't allowed to have friends from the outside world. I wasn't allowed to watch movies that whatever, were deemed satanic or whatever the case may be. There were many, many things that I wasn't allowed to do. The things that I were allowed to do, become proficient in firearms. The things that I was allowed to do, I was allowed to run around across the countryside completely on my own. Miles and miles I would go into the wilderness and where nobody could ever possibly find me if I tripped and broke my ankle. And yet, that was okay because I wasn't in the world, right? So when you come out of an environment like that, learning about government and about society and the military is all very interesting stuff. But I did, because I was a government employee. And when I got out of the military, I was another government employee. And I continued that for a while, taking breaks to do stuff like trucking and stuff like that. And taking breaks to do jobs that I have never told anybody about and may never tell anybody about. But anybody who would tell me what to do, I immediately questioned, because I grew up in a cult, and most of what I was told to do in the cult was ludicrous. Not all of the things that I was told to do was relating cult activity, but rather there were these insane actions commanded by an insane man who also had a cult, and that's essentially how I view my family situation. We'll just leave it at that. This thing that I've learned is that people in power always have two goals. The first goal is to keep people from revolting however they can, whether it's through deception or just by being a good governmental or ruling system. The people must maintain their composure, and order must be preserved in order to prevent an overthrowing, right? Which is what all governments on the planet want to avoid. Leaders will say absolutely whatever they have to say, okay? Whatever they want to say. But the fact of the matter is, leaders very rarely ever want to stop being leaders. To be a leader often feels like an inherent skill to a leader, right? Like they just know how to lead. They've got something in them. It's second nature to lead. And we've all probably met somebody who is a natural born leader. But if you are not a natural born leader, your eagerness to maintain hold is even stronger. And I've seen this time and time and time again in the cult, in the military, in governmental ranks, and then in civilian ranks. This is extremely simple to understand. If you're not a good leader, your desire to lead is probably bigger than the leaders. I don't know why. But it's only natural that instead of, forfeiting leadership in the situation where the people are unhappy, a leader will do something or say something to attempt to dissipate that anger, disintegrate, I should say, that anger or the bad vibes, and through that they will maintain control. And the second thing, because I said there's two things, right? The second thing is that they want to advance geopolitically, societally, or financially. In most cases, it's all three. In cults, the geopolitical aspect, at least from my experience, is not as important. But the finance and social acceptance, or at least respect and tolerance, are highly demanded, okay? Unless you're in, like, the cult that I was in, where I consider it a bit of a doomsday death cult, right? We had, there were members who had the pills, the cyanide pills for their family. There were the members who preached violence. A lot of them were convicts or ex-convicts. There was the whole gun orientation thing when it comes to what if we have to defend ourselves from the government? There was all that kind of shit, guys. Okay? And there was this general idea that we may have to die for this. And it was ingrained into the children, the women, and of course, the men. The fighting age men. So unless you're in a cult like that, most of the time, these two things are going to be true. In the case of a doomsday death cult like I was in, the goal is to not be seen at all, which is why my family was fleeing from state to state my entire upbringing, and that essentially ruined the trajectory of my life, but because it's still haunting me to this day. But that's a story for another time. We live in this era where nearly every government of the first world is choosing this second goal above everything else. Therefore, we have arrived at a contradiction, haven't we? We live in an era where unimaginable power seems to be the goal of every single government on the planet, and that includes our own. Through unimaginable power, suffocating control, and through a complex invasion of surveillance and like a cultural discord, like arguments within people, we are slowly being moved towards the point of no return. So when the people rise up, inevitably, what will the government do? Our government. While they'll do whatever they have to, because remember, we're living under a government that has chosen power and control and financial gain over peace and prosperity and love and happiness of the people, right? Is it really that surprising then that they might shoot one of the people that we love in a spectacle of a fashion? Is it really that surprising to you that a corrupt government might cannibalize one of its own for some purpose? Maybe they'll shoot 10 of us next time. Maybe 100. Do you guys remember Las Vegas? Do you guys really still think that was just some dude operating on his own? The government is and always will be so insanely evil that it is ludicrous to sit back in your little living room and say to yourself things like, there's no way they would kill one of their own just to send a message to us. It's more likely that we all live in a simulation, that we're all just computer code, but I still believe in God for some reason. You create this reality to mask truth. You can't handle the reality that the government that you voted for is actually here for your ass. You can't fathom that. So we make up conspiracy theories of how it could be any other way. But now, if you look online, you'll see all sorts of people being like, this is assassination, makes no sense. It's because it's not real. It happened, but the motive is different. The culprits are different. The face behind the mask is not what we would expect. But the government is that evil, and they would do that to you. Evil men have been sacrificing good men for thousands of years to maintain control. This is nothing new. Evil men have been cannibalizing themselves and their cabinets to maintain power for centuries. Do you remember any of Caesar's complications? How were they handled? Correct. Knives in the back. Knives in the back. And look at this descendant of Rome that we call the Kingdom of the United States of America. Are we really that much different? Is our government really that much different? You and I might be more different from the typical Roman citizens, but our government is very, very similar, okay? Modeled after the Roman Empire, as a matter of fact. That's why we have so much Greco-Roman influence here. I hope all of this is starting to make a little bit of sense now. So they kill one of our favorite people, not one of my favorite people, but one of a lot of people's favorite people. And I do admire him. As a Christian, as a man, as a father, as a husband, as somebody who follows Christ, I admire him. But I wouldn't say that he's one of my favorite people, and I've made that clear, and that's okay. But they kill one of the majority of conservatives' favorite people, and it's incredibly convincing to blame it on the other side. Because, well, why would the good guys kill one of their own? One of our favorite people, one of the most powerful of their own, one who could be credited with the entire reason that Trump is president in the first place, right? Oh, well, it's because the Epstein files weren't released. It's because people were getting ready to riot about that, because Trump has outed himself as a liar, okay? It's because of the genocide in Gaza that we are being basically gaslighted into believing is not even fucking happening, but if it is, it's justified, right? It's because Is It Real, which is my new little nickname for the fraudulent country in the Middle East that is now jockeying our great nation as if we were just nothing more than a horse for this, this evil, anti-Christian, war-mongering machine, the self-proclaimed manipulators of the universe. We're just here to make sure that they achieve all of their wildest, globalist wet dreams. Never has it been so obvious that we are compromised by Is It Real. Never. Did you know that Is It Real has universal health care and we don't? Did you know they're also somewhere between 20 and 40% inbred? Why is Mr. Netanyahu, which is my new name for the leader of those people of Is It Real, was referred to as Babylon the Great by my AI companion, which seems to see major Babylon vibes showing themselves, and actually considers him a ruler of confusion more than a ruler of a nation. And the war in Ukraine also continues to rage, by the way, in case you were wondering. It looks like we're most definitely gonna lose that shit. I say we, but I really mean they. Only a couple weeks ago, headlines were floating around about how Trump's popularity is fading. So what do we got? What do we do, guys? What are we gonna do? Guys, what are we gonna do? Because our popularity is fading. People don't like us as much as they used to, which is crazy because, 6 months ago we were uber popular and now they're like, wow, are we sure we even like this guy anymore? Is he even on our team? Well, you know what? We're gonna have to commit a horrible murder that shakes them to their core. We gotta rein them back in. We gotta remind them that life is dangerous. So make sure your government has your back, right? And then we'll just blame it on the opposition. We'll blame it on the liberals. And we'll do that to show the people how evil that other side is. So there's really nowhere to go except Republican. There's really nowhere to go except conservative. There's really nowhere to go except church. They've lost faith in us. I mean, we need to show them what we are against so that they remind themselves that they are also supposed to be against it because we are against it. Yeah, we just gotta make sure that they know that they lost the focus. We gotta redirect their attention back towards how awesome we are, but mainly how bad the other side is. This is very amateur shit. I mean, everybody who wants to win an office or a position goes through this process. There's the constant, this is how good I am and this is how bad my opposition is, being thrown out there, and that's how people win elections, right? So the government says we will cause them to essentially collapse in on their pain, okay, and their suffering. Their vengeful rhetoric will be validated by their friends, and they will enact retribution on their enemies, which coincidentally are also our enemies. In reality, most liberals, most of the enemy they're not exactly killers. They're more just people who don't really know how to control their mouths or their impulses. They're retards with mental diseases who don't know how to even function in society. They are an animalistic, barbarian sect who calls for murder. They mutilate their bodies and the bodies of their children because of confusion regarding their own genders, okay? They are for mass immigration of evil satanic religions. They like death. For some reason, they like it because they think that through this death, they will gain some kind of universal race. I don't really know what the liberals want by bringing in all of these fucking animals from other parts of the world, but they like that, okay? All the kinds of stuff that we hate. But in the end, these Looney Tunes are simply weak, frail-boned, unskilled, uneducated in real education. They've all been brainwashed by the MK Ultra programs that are running inside the school and the liberal brainwashing vomit that they just inject via syringe into your brain and into your soul. But they're just lunatics. They're absolutely lunatics. They're absolutely retards. They're absolutely people who should never even be asked their opinion in society, whether in public or private, because their opinion is wrong. They're godless. Their opinion will never be right. But all of that can be educated, right? We can persuade, and I'm not saying I want to, but I will preach Jesus, and you know, I hope that they see the light, and maybe someday I'll even go out there like Charlie did, or whatever, if ever I'm done doing this other stuff that I'm doing, or I feel called by the Lord, then maybe I will do some of that kind of stuff. But right now, this is my spot, right? Regardless, these people can be educated. They were educated in the first place. They can be brainwashed to truth. We can brainwash them with truth. We don't have to continue to let them be brainwashed by liberal nonsense. We can apply our own brainwashing, but it's the brainwashing of Jesus, which is actual brainwashing with the blood of Christ, and that is what should be happening. Through Jesus Christ, all that can be changed. Somebody could go change their own mind simply by doing research on the parties that they've been following and finding out that they're absolutely batshit crazy, right? Somebody could be moved to the other side because of tragedy. A lot of people didn't like the shooting of Charlie Kirk, and so they're like, I'm done with the left. Somebody could discover that their side is just simply wrong and has been all along. Therefore, this was the straw that broke the camel's back and it's time to jump ship. There's any number of ways that these people can be changed, okay? The government, though, wants to capture those people in their hearts and in their minds and bring them to their side if they can. That's how you win votes. That's how you defeat the opposition. And if they can't do this, well, you're at the hands of the angry conservative mob now. This is very specific to the USA right now in regards to the Charlie Kirk thing. I'm not speaking vaguely or trying to give an overall picture of what the whole world's going through. I'm giving you a picture of what's happening regarding this very specific fallout after Charlie Kirk's death. Okay? Because I'm seeing signs that I've seen before when I lived in a cult, a doomsday death cult. Okay? So I feel like my perspective here is a little bit more like grounded in the brutality of it rather than the, fanciful political change is coming, there's an awakening, everything is improving. Ask yourself why everything would be improving in these end times. Does the Bible even say that's gonna happen? No, it doesn't. The Bible does not say that there's going to be some great awakening before I return and everybody's going to turn to Jesus. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? That would be wonderful. And maybe it is. Maybe this is one of those unwritten God's plans type deals where there is going to be an insane 8-year Christian revival in the United States. But we all know how this story ends, don't we? And it doesn't end with kumbaya in the streets. I'll just say that much. We know this. If you don't know this, go check out the book of Revelation. It's very insightful. So the government does all this. It begins to lose control because they lied. They deceived us. We begin to get angry. Something must be done. They kill one of their allies, which is why we love him, right? Because, first of all, he aligns with our views, and so once did the president, and he was able to get the president where he is, and so, naturally, he's one of our favorite guys. He also didn't waver in his beliefs like our president did, and basically everybody else who's up there constantly talking to us on the news. He didn't waver. He maintained his positions, right? And he's the one. He is the lamb. So, government sacrifices the lamb. Whether it's Netanyahu behind it, whether it's somebody else behind it, it doesn't feel to me like this is an isolated situation with somebody who just wanted to do something. I don't know. There's something about that isn't vibing with me, considering all the evidence I'm seeing. And no, I'm not one of those guys who's going to say Charlie Kirk's not dead. I firmly believe Charlie Kirk is dead. He actually was shot because I believe in actual real evil where people die. And if certain people can't believe in true evil where people die, then that's fine. That's fine. Honestly, it's fine because we don't know what reality is real, but I know that it's one that involves God and Jesus and actual death, because that's the whole reason that Jesus was sent, was to conquer death. So why would we be saying that death isn't real when it actually, well, it's the whole purpose of Christ. After this happens, a war rages between the people. Charlie Kirk is shot. Look what's happening. A war is raging between the people. If only in a rhetorical sense right now, it is happening, okay? And this, believe it or not, is a form of keeping the people silent. Though the air may deafen you from being so filled with cheers and yells and battle cries and screams and gunfire and fireworks and the national anthem and hymns and prayers and praise. Though the air may deafen you with the sounds, this is a silence strategy, okay? This is a form of silence and suppression. How could that be? Well, this is silence because the real enemy laughs as you entertain yourself with these small, misguided measures that have been organized by the overlords, whether it's Netanyahu or the Trump train, who knows, okay? But it's not real. It is real, it happened, but the reality we're moving towards is not real, okay? This is a form of suppression because your voice has been captured, and the energy of it is now being used for a completely new issue that they have just created for you. The murder of Charlie Kirk is that new issue. And though it's a real issue, it's one that if they hadn't done it, you wouldn't be focused on. But you must focus on it because it's so important to not. You're not wrong for being focused on it. You're not wrong for wanting to change the way that people are behaving in this country. You're not wrong for being angry that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a liberal. You're not, allegedly, you're not wrong for any of that. For being pissed off at the liberals for being such huge bags of shit. You're not wrong about any of that. That anger, in my opinion, is justified. But all that energy a couple weeks ago was directed at other things that mattered. And now all those things have been forgotten, breezed over, in fact. It would almost be really weird to try to go back to the Epstein files at this point, right? It just feels like it's been kind of like shoveled over, and now it's a totally different USA. It's a totally different USA. Have you guys not noticed how different it is? It's wild, man. It's wild. We're forgetting all the other issues that we were yelling about. We've been given a different situation to fight about, to yell about. But it's unfortunately the wrong direction, I think. And it's very complicated because now every direction you look, you're starting to wonder who the enemy is. But it's so very easy to focus on the enemy that is now calling for your death because they're liberal madness, right? It's pretty easy that when somebody threatens your life or says you should die, or I'm really happy that your favorite guy died, it's really easy to be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you like that? Who made you that way? Who hurt you? Like, damn, dude. Like, you really think that? Wow. You're not an American. And furthermore, I don't even know if you're human because that's a really weird belief. Especially coming from people who are frequently siding with terrorists, right? So, naturally, that's the enemy we choose. That's the one we direct our attentions at instead of Donald Trump. After all, he seems to be on our side in this. And now all of a sudden the entire Trump train is like, yeah, fuck those guys. We need to do something. And you got Tucker, you got Candace Owens, you got Ben Shapiro, the Netanyahu slut that he is. You've got Matt Walsh. You've got, you got Megyn Kelly. You got Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and, dare I say it, even Bongino. All these people out here being like, the liberal madness is the ones. We need to dismantle them. We need to destroy them. And then you've got all of us. I'm saying all of us because I'm one of you. I'm a people like you. And so we got all of us being like, yeah, pitchforks, public execution. And we're riled up. It's a speech. It's a morale building speech on a battlefield. That's what it is. This whole situation, that's what it has been. Not any one single speech, but all the speeches combined should be thought of as a battlefield speech before we charge. Does that not feel like how it is? So yeah, we choose to target the libtards. We have to get rid of them. Never mind the Epstein list. Or any of these other petty disagreements, as Matt Walsh says. Even though normally, I think Matt Walsh is onto something, but when he said that the other day, I was like, dude, you're one of them, aren't you? Either that or you're just so brainwashed, even though you say you're a Christian, that you actually believe that all of this is just naturally unfolding. It's really hard to tell, but regardless, the sentiment is, we gotta put aside all of these differences, all of these confusing news stories, and we have to focus on what matters now, and that's getting rid of the libtards, these godless people, these fiends, these monsters. We need to get rid of them. And do I think they're monsters? Absolutely. Do I think they're godless heathens? Absolutely. It's not my space to kill them, but do I think they are that way? Of course. Would I ever be friends with one? Sure. As long as you're nice to me, maybe I can change your mind. You're never gonna change my mind, but maybe I can change yours, right? We've been put on this train car that is heading towards an unknown future where the liberals, it appears, will meet their demise. All of this, in my opinion, I've seen this before. I've seen this in my dad's cult. It's a fake pole to a fake god. And this is going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. I urge you to watch this video with a clear mind, an open mind, because this next part is going to sound like I hate Christians or something, like I look sideways at Christians, and that's just not simply the case. But I want you to imagine this, right? It's a fake pole to a fake God. On the left, the trans and the liberal bullshit is ingrained. It's in the schools. It's not just the universities, all of the schools. It's in the workplaces. It's in the media. It's in the entertainment. It's everywhere. And then on the right, all this brainwashing and stuff, it happens in the churches, right? That's where we learn about our God, the churches. The liberals learn about their God on the media. We learn about our God in the churches. Unless you're like me, in which case you just let the Spirit of the Lord lead you, and He will surround you with people who are godly, or you should seek them out. What we're seeing in the country right now is this mass awakening, right? I don't know if you guys live under a rock or not, but there's a mass awakening going on. All these new people going to churches. All these new people abandoning the liberal party. After all, they're saying something like 2.4. This was days ago, but they're like 2.4 million people have left the Democrat side and registered as Republicans or something like that. It's crazy. And I see so many people being like, I'm going back to church. And other people being like, I'm going to church for the first time because it seems like they've really got it together. So this mass awakening that everybody is feeling, where are they all gonna go? They're gonna go to the churches. The churches are the new propaganda machine. Remember, this is where we've been getting our education all along. Christians, a lot of conservatives, Republicans, a lot of people pretty much rely on their pastor to be right. Pretty much rely on that doctrine to be steadfast. But the churches, as I said before, are the new propaganda machine, taking the place of the universities and the media. The church is how they get into your ideology. And now you've got all these vulnerable, new, or weak Christians coming over and beginning to go to church. Okay? The church is now going to get into those people's ideologies. And yours. Ye who go to church. They're going to get into your spiritual beliefs. The churches are how they give you God. And what other loyalty is stronger to a man than the one that he has to his God? In a way, this is the most horrifying reality possible because this is how a cult forms. Conservatives like to believe that they are superior in some way, at a minimum spiritually, and I think most of the time they are, but they say, and the reason that I think they are is just because how fucking dense and brain dead that the liberals are, and conservatives at least believe in a God. So that's a step in the right direction, okay? But they say things like, oh, these libtards don't have a God, and that's why they're cutting their penises off. And that's why they're like running around in girl clothes and calling for murder. That's why they celebrate death and abortion. They have no God. And that is true. That's a truth that is being weaponized in a way. They say, God, God, God. The liberals see the conservatives cry out to God in their times of turmoil. And they don't have that. And so they come. They want God too. A lot of them do now, right? This, on the surface, is a great thing. It's a good thing, and I think a lot of good is going to come from it. I think so many good things are going to come from this. At least in people's souls. I think people will be saved. I think a great many people are going to come to Christ through this, and I think that's a good thing. But we have to be careful because there's a deeper plan here, and it seems engineered. And remember, we as Christians know how the story ends, okay? So, as long as we keep our eye on the prize, the end, the story, we shouldn't be blinded by these new details coming forth, these new landmarks in history. God, through all of this, becomes a word that will become confusing. Because who's God? The Jews hate our God. But we love the Jews for some reason. And the Catholics are pedophiles. The popes are generally vile. The Baptist God is just a racist. The Mormon God is a fucking American. So, which God, dear preacher, is our God? Which one is the shiny white Republican God that you guys worship? To have this faith and this comfort and this power. And just like that, an entire engineered religion, complete with a Republican deity. Obviously, I'm speaking facetiously. I'm being funny, even though it's not. All of these fresh, new Christian minds lining up to learn about their new God. People who have never known God, but now are hell-bent on learning because of the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk. The inspiration that he was. They must know what it was that made him so great, so powerful. Well, it was God. So minds that have never known God, and minds that have rebelled from God, minds that have attacked God in the past, they all begin to turn. And this is a good thing. But this time it's different. There's more at stake. These Christians might be right. These Republicans might have it together. By God, by their God. I've been wrong this whole time, but they seem to really get it. So the churches swell with new converts, all eager to donate to their new tax collectors, the cashiers of the beast. In this pit of vipers, as Christ would say. The simple price of having God, of course. The price is simple, it's your soul, and well, whatever else you got in your pockets. And everyone agrees that this is the right thing to do. As a matter of fact, you should be at least a little ashamed if you don't contribute. What? You don't have any money for God? What's wrong with you? Do you need me to pray for you? That's the way it is. That's been my experience in churches, and I've been to many as I have tried to exit the cult. And then there's the Sunday school for the babes. There's the vacation Bible school for the youth, kids. There's youth group for the teens, right? And Bible camp for the young adults. By their God, I'm starting to get a whiff of that smelly old MK Ultra turd for some reason. It's really quite genius. One could even say satanic. The best part is these people's ideology, their religions, the new cultures that will form, and the strange hybrid Republican God that emerges will be impossible to defeat if this succeeds. It will spread like a wave across the land, and these cannibals, with their God, will devour all who do not bend the knee. Very similar to Islam. They will stab, they will shoot, they will decapitate, all in the name of God. And if you don't believe this, it's never been more obvious that you didn't grow up in a cult. So, is this God's way, or is this their God's way? And first of all, who am I to say? I am just a guy, just saying stuff. But I'm telling you right now, this is exactly how the cult that I was in recruited. This is exactly how cults form. I watched this cult form, my dad's cult, the one that I grew up in. I was old enough to have it sort of happen to me. It's not like I was born into it. I was present of mind. I was not a baby. I was a functional human being as this was happening. I wasn't unaware of the weirdisms that were going on, but I was brainwashed. So I thought, this isn't that weird. It's weird in a way, but it's like, it's not, because it's my whole life. It's how I grew up. So I remember it, and it continued for years. And I can tell you that this is how it happens. And I know that some of you are probably being like, oh, John, how could the cult possibly be Christian? Just do some reading on cults, my good guy. How could the cult be us? Well, my people, this is the devil at work, potentially. Who can explain the lies and the tales and the scenarios and the handouts that the devil could provide to make his work flourish and succeed? The weird environments that he constructs for us to navigate ourselves through. And then I began to think, since I believe that Netanyahu is an extreme danger to the entire planet, not simply because of Gaza, but because of everything else about him. Everything else. There's not a single good thing about Netanyahu. And the weird capture that has taken place of our country by Is She Real, I began to think, what if the shooters are not the shooters? They are framed. They allow themselves to be put on a list because they have no other way to achieve what they need in life. The actual killers, though, are government assassins. They're Mossad, or whatever the Is She Real special forces are called. Because of all of these gifts, these, as I said before, these handouts, these benefits that the libtards get, they agree to be put on a list of chance, if you will, that they may be framed for a heinous crime. So whether these fucked up little libtards want to transition, and the only way that they can get the help that they need is by being put on this list, or whether something horrible has happened in their little life and there is only one way out and it's just a game of chance, a little Russian roulette, if you will, from the Middle East, these masters of manipulation. But so far, we don't care about any of that, even though they frequently brag about how they manipulate the entire planet and how the whole world is their stage. They completely and openly project this for all to know and hear. They have so much power that this list doesn't feel like such a big deal. We already know that Netanyahu is out here trying to convince us that he didn't kill Charlie Kirk. He said it specifically. I've never heard a world leader come out and say something like, I didn't kill that guy, without anybody asking him. Are you slipping, Mr. Master of Manipulation, or are you just stupid? Are you just really one of the dumbest guys out there? We already know that Netanyahu is out here making millions upon millions of dollars worth of deals with YouTube and Google and Amazon and other media partnerships in the USA because he wants to know what you buy and he wants to know what you say about Israel and he wants to punish you if you say anything bad about Israel. In the USA, by the way. In the USA. I'm sure this has already happened in Israel. And that's why there's like quiet revolutions going on over there that nobody is talking about. We have been stolen, people. We already know they want to pass a law just for speaking bad about Is She Real. We could be prevented from traveling, imprisoned in place, just for saying something bad about Is She Real. Tell me why in the middle of a war a foreign leader is more concerned about the opinions of American people than his own. What is going on here? We already know that Is She Real has killed our people before, in cold blood. We already know that they are assassins and masters of manipulations and horrors that we can barely conceive. We already know that they tried to put trackers on Donald Trump's vehicle last week. And we also know that Netanyahu invited Charlie Kirk to Israel 2 weeks prior to his death. And upon refusing, Charlie Kirk appears to have been... Now, coincidence? Maybe. But this is a compelling discussion. Kirk even turned down a handsome $150 million paycheck from Netanyahu. He didn't want that blood money. But Mr. Neffel knew that he would have to bribe. He would have to pay this legend. Because that's what he does. This tiny little nation that needs all of our help and our good graces certainly has a lot of money to just throw about in the United States for strange purposes, don't they? It's almost like this was by design. This video, I don't know if this is going to get me killed. I hope it's not. I hope I'm being paranoid. But this is one of the first videos that I put out there where I actually feel a little bit in danger for saying it. Because There are sleeper cells who await the moment to be activated. They are already in the US. I'm not merely saying things to scare you. I've seen them, okay? Sleeper cells can wait for years. 1, 10, 20 years until they're activated. That is what a sleeper cell is. It's not like on TV where they're just there, you know, oh, I infiltrated the country and now I'm a sleeper cell. Dun dun. No, dude. These are people who will just come into your country and live here for 20 years and then be called up for one single task, like an assassination, and then perform. But there are also groups that will be used to take over large portions of the country. This is going to happen, and this is what a sleeper cell is. You should think of it as kind of like a bear that enters hibernation, you know, until it's time to feed, and then it comes back out. The entire purpose of a sleeper cell is to never be found, okay? And that happens all the time. They come in, they build, and they're never found. And part of this sleeper cell web of satanic destruction is a collection, in my opinion, I think that there's a possibility that one of these cells, which may in fact just be a variation of MK Ultra, guys. I mean, when I look at this, I see MK Ultra, and I know that we don't use the word anymore and it's not that, but I'm using something closest to what we all understand. And this trans stuff is giving mad MK Ultra vibes. It's like they just found a little collection of people that they can manipulate to all hell and that they can basically control somehow. And it's heavily involved with chemical imbalances, chemical changes in the brain and in the body that are forced, even bodily changes, even surgeries, right? Very, very MK Ultra. And then they just so happen to also be killing people all the time? Especially high profile assassinations and school shootings and terror acts. So they go to this at-risk group, these individuals who are like this, and they're not hard to find because they're very loud, right? And they find that they're willing to put their future in fate's hands for a scholarship, for a transition, for a good job, for something else, support for their organization, whether it's BLM or Antifa or whatever. And they know there's just a chance that we might get selected to be a patsy, but that's it. That's it. We might be framed, but maybe we won't. We might go through our whole lives and never have to pay for this generous gift that you're giving me. I might never get called. Sure, I'll take the scholarship. After all, I need this. I'll take your transition. My brain is just fucked up and I just really need to get my penis cut off. And all I have to do is be put on a list where maybe I have to be framed as an assassin or something. Okay, bro. Okay, yeah, I think I'll take that bet. It's a bit like playing the lottery, okay? And maybe most of them who play win. It's really hard to know, but most violence done by trans people goes unreported, or at least doesn't make the limelight. You're really only seeing the most popular of the heinous crimes that they commit. Pretty soon, it won't be hidden that the government wants to kill us. They won't need these weird assassin types and people to frame. With the rise of Palantir, the increased acceptance of Netanyahu as our leader, and I do think very soon we will see a combining of these two nations. I know that sounds crazy to think or to say. I would not be surprised if someday there is an American flag with a Jewish star replacing our 50. And that will be the new flag of the nation. That would not surprise me in the slightest. And I think we need to be very, very vigilant in watching for the signs of that. Because this increased acceptance of Netanyahu as somebody that we should care about is bizarre. And because of the fighting between the left and the right, which might get mad wild, guys. The government will probably try to impose at least some form of martial law, and they'll probably call it martial law at first, but it will really just be communism eventually because it will never end. And it'll just expand and expand, and then the soldiers will begin to believe that they're doing the right thing, so then there won't be a revolution from the military or an uprising or whatever, a mutiny, whatever you want to call it, and it will just become a military state of communism, essentially. It'll be a Christian communism, because we, the people, fell for it. We, the people, continue to see Elon, for instance, as one of us because he continues to use the word we on X in reference to him and us. We need to stop this. Everybody needs to be telling Elon that you are not one of us. He says we or America will never be the same if we don't do this. We need to do this or that to save America. Just go to X and look at how many times Elon refers to himself as one of us. I hate to break it to you, but now he's the second richest man, but whether he's the first, second, third, or let's just say any of the top 1,000 richest people on this planet, they are not one of us. They are not one of us. This is a man who wants to put robots in our brains and make all of our thoughts uploadable to his database. Musk needs to stop referring to himself as one of us and to the American people as we. And we need to stop accepting that. Not because of any other reason except this guy wants to put robots in our brain and is a mega billionaire. I know that's a hot take, but I just don't see him as one of us. So when these mega millionaires and these influencers and these politicians who lobby and these world leaders refer to us as we, they do so maliciously. This is a strategy. Never, ever trust the government. The life is in the blood. Also, Pam Bondi is she a real employee?